All right, let's go. Let's start with the first one.
Let's do the first one.
You do believe, and I do too, that if Shedeur went to the Cowboys, Deion would accept the job.
I believe 100%. And I can tell you, good sources have told me that. Great sources have told me that. That's all I can say like that without violating anything else.
Do you think the source is Deion Sanders?
I do, yes.
Okay.
I do think that the source is his former teammate, Deion Sanders.
Well, Deion's not going to trust Michael Irvin anymore. He's just out there.
I don't think Deion cares. I think Deion would tell you that himself.
I don't see Deion staying in Colorado.
No.
Beyond his son and Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
He brought them to Jackson State, brought them to Colorado. Does he want to sit there and grind it out in college without his kid?
Deion working. So, I mean, any head coach of the Dallas Cowboys is fascinating because you're dealing with Jerry Jones, owner and GM. Like, you're not, you've got to deal with the same crap everybody else is going to deal with. So Deion, okay, now if you bring your son as quarterback, number one, you've got Dak Prescott there. How is that going to work, right? Number two, even if you bring your kid and you somehow resolve the Dak Prescott thing, okay, we've got quarterback set because Shedeur is really good. I like my son. I think he's the guy. You still, so that the most difficult personnel part is done, but it's still relying on Jerry to get it right everywhere else.
Is it assuming too much that Deion has to come in as a package deal with his kid who's going to get drafted in the top 10? Why can't he just become the Dallas head coach with Dak Prescott as the quarterback? Like Dak, nobody is looking at the Cowboys and saying Dak's the problem.
No. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are some. But yes.
I mean, nobody...
Fringe opinion.
Nobody who speaks about football outside of the 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. or whenever the Shouty Show window is actually looking at the Cowboys and saying, well, it's Dak.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people reporting, I guess, or rumor mongering that that there is a package deal to be had. Now, is it available without the package? Can you just draft one, not have the head coach, or can you hire the head coach and not have him draft his son? I don't know.
I mean,
maybe it's like, you remember.
I mean, that's an easy rumor to create too.
But I
think Deion might want to be with his kid in the NFL, and they would come together.
But
I'm reporting this right now.
Maybe he'll do the exact opposite. Maybe he'll, in fact, draft Carson Beck. Because remember, there's a whole bunch of coaches.
No one knows Shedeur better than Deion.
Right. There's a whole bunch of college or coaches that have come from college, and you're like, well, he's immediately going to draft his QB. And he goes and drafts the exact opposite guy in the same draft. Maybe the first thing Deion's going to do is go draft a different quarterback.
Shedeur's been holding us back in Colorado. If I just had Carson Beck, we'd be number one in the nation.
Right.
Either way, I could see Deion coming to the NFL, and I don't know. It's going to be a fun story no matter what.
I don't know how you can get out of that contract, by the way. Like if
it's like $100 million of dead money next year.
If they did decide that they just signed the deal. Like, it's almost impossible to get out of that at this stage. Maybe a couple of years, but right now, I don't really. I mean, maybe you draft Shedeur as the future. Maybe you draft him now for like the Michael Penix pick. Maybe you draft Shedeur to get Deion, and then in a couple of years' time, you figure out how to get rid of Dak Prescott, and away you go.
Imagine the fodder if Deion is the head coach of the Cowboys with Dak as the starter and his son as the backup.
Right. With no way of getting rid of Dak for a couple of years. Like, that's locked in as the dynamic for a while.
Imagine that.
That would be, I mean...
You're a chaos rooter.
Me? There's nothing Jerry Jones likes more than headlines. That would generate more headlines than anything that's ever happened in football.
Literally every drop back that's incomplete. Is Shedeur warming up yet?
Every drop back.
Shedeur warming up in the bullpen yet? Dak's 1 for 4 today.
Every missed pass has Fox zeroing in on the close-up cam of Shedeur in the sideline.
And then up to Jerry, and then back to the game.
And Shedeur, being Shedeur, is probably laughing at the pass that he missed, So every Dak miss zeroes in on a picture of Shedeur on the sideline, like mocking the miss, Oh,
man, the coaching staff would be incredible, too. You got Sapp on the sideline, and they got Michael Irvin coming back to coach the receivers. And
perfect.
It's gonna be wonderful.
All right, next Shouty Show.
There is no doubt in my mind the complexion of this season is completely different. The feel around this team is completely different if the Bengals
would have made a decision long-term around T. Higgins and Jamar Chase this offseason.
Yep.
But the fact that they didn't do that, the fact that they didn't take care of Trent Hendrickson, who is awesome and leading the NFL in sacks, the fact that they didn't take care of those core players in their team, it sent a terrible message to their locker room. And now that they're going into their bye week, why should we think that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to come back off of vacation for the rest of the season? Why would we think they're going to show up and get things turned around? They're not. These dudes are shipping the cars home and making vacation plans because they know that they're not going anywhere.
Shipping the cars home. There's a little nugget you don't think about as a non-NFL player, you know?
Or professional athlete. Yeah, shipping your car is a pain.
Yeah. But like you think those Lamborghinis were bought in Cincinnati? No, they were bought somewhere else. They bring them over, they send them back.
We would have the option. You could drive from spring training to your city, or you could have your car shipped with the whole team would have their cars shipped, or whatever.
Yeah.
Not Lamborghinis usually.
Yeah, right. Different level of car for you and them.
You don't know.
Oh, I know. Number one,
you could have the mini. I didn't have a minivan back then.
You don't fit in any of the cars that they would be driving.
My Ford Taurus would have to get shipped if I wanted it to. Canty bringing the game. He's
so Chris
strong
Canty.
Hot take game.
Yeah, he does. Chris Canty feels like he's auditioning for a Shouty Show, like a prime time Shouty Show segment.
Oh yeah, he is.
So this was one of the most reserved.
The
Chris
scouts
Canty,
are watching him closely.
This was one of the most reserved Chris Canty takes I've heard. This is actually a pretty reasonable point. I mean. I don't know if I agree with it necessarily that if they'd gotten T. Higgins and or Jamar Chase locked up to a long-term contract, the vibes in the building are better. But
I don't see.
It's the most reasonable thing I've heard him say in a long time.
I think it's completely unrelated to what are they 4-7 now, whatever their record is. It's completely unrelated to their record. Like if they were 7-4, which again they're 3 plays away from being.
Yeah.
If they're 7-4, you could make the same argument. Hey, they kind of screwed this up. The same way we would say Dallas screwed up, waiting on Dak and waiting on CeeDee Lamb and now waiting on Micah Parsons.
Well,
they screwed this up by not having Jamar Chase locked up. But listen, the Jamar Chase thing was already overblown, right? Justin Jefferson got his deal. Like if Jamar Chase gets his deal this offseason, that's the same time that Justin Jefferson got his deal, right?
Yeah.
Jamar just brought it up a year early. The Shouty Shows also had it wrong, and so this is where the misinformation flows, right? The Shouty Shows were shouting this summer, Jamar Chase is making $1 million this year. That's it. It's like, no. He's already got paid his signing bonus, right? His cap hit is higher. He's already gotten paid. He's not making he's not a $1 million player. So they were using like fake information to get fake mad about the time of when Jamar Chase should have been signed, when if he just gets signed long-term this offseason, it would match what happened with Justin Jefferson. The Trey Hendrickson thing, I could buy that a little bit more. He's a cornerstone player on the defensive side of the ball. As soon as he's like a little unhappy, maybe you take care of him. Maybe I still would have taken care of Chase too. The Higgins thing I think is trickier because I don't know that they can do it all, because they have to hedge somewhere. So at the end of the day, would I have locked up Hendrickson and locked up Chase? Maybe. But the Chase thing was like him asking for money way earlier than any other receiver.
Yeah, and that's fine. So the only way that's a problem is if there was a report, I forget where it was from, where it was like the negotiations went very badly and there's like bad blood there now. So that becomes a problem if you screwed it up to such a degree that he doesn't want to sign anymore and you can't get him done next season. Like the Justin Jefferson thing was fine because everybody left that in a fine way. It was like, okay, we took a shot a year early. I'm like a historical outlier in terms of production. I want to get paid earlier than everybody else gets paid. They took a swing at it. They didn't get it done. We parked it until next year. They came back. They made him the highest paid receiver in the NFL. Everybody's happy. It didn't, the negotiations when they stopped didn't get left in a sour way, which there was certainly a report that said it did this year.
Wouldn't those issues show up with the players involved? Trey Hendrickson's having a career year.
That's the problem.
Jamar Chase is having a career year.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's having a career year.
That's where I was going to go.
You're telling me Geno Stone's out there like, man, I just
Right.
don't want to make that tackle because they didn't pay Jamar.
The flaw in the logic is that every player he's mentioned outside of T. Higgins who's been hurt, like if you're saying they didn't get him paid, therefore it's left a problem with it, but like every player that would be individually pissed off by that is playing out of their minds. So that doesn't make sense, which is why it's probably not a great take.
Okay, so fine with them trying to like pay people earlier. They're not 4-7 and 3 plays away from 7-4, or 3 plays away from 8-3, 4 plays away from 8-3 because, and they're not shipping their cars. They're not shipping their cars right now.
No.
Maybe they are.
Well, you might be. Just
one more loss. If they lose to Pittsburgh, maybe the cars are getting shipped.
It's late November, winter's coming. You're not going to be driving the Lamborghini on the snow and ice anyway.
Yeah, probably shipping the car because of that.
Get it back to Florida.
It's cold in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's going to be 30 tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying.
Awful.
Get it off to Florida already.
All right, what's next?
Right.
This is why the Giants suck. Drew Lock has been your backup quarterback for the entirety of the season, right? Yeah. He was the guy, if Daniel Jones was going to get hurt, he was the guy that was going in. He was good enough to do that for you for the entirety of this season. But as soon as you decide to bench Daniel Jones, you decide to go with the sideshow, Tommy Cutlets. Because why? Because your fan base will get excited? You're a bad franchise. You need to attract free agents to come to your franchise. If I'm a free agent player, and all things being equal from a money standpoint, I look at this clown show versus some other team, I'm not going to the Giants. That's a clown show. That guy worked all year to be the backup to get his opportunity. He signed there to have an opportunity because he knew Daniel Jones was questionable. And at the 11th hour, you decide, no, we're going to go with, yeah, right?
All right, that's top tier Shouty Show work.
Oh, that's his debut.
Yeah.
That's his debut.
Big
Mark
stick.
Schlereth, that's your hero, Sam.
Yeah, I do like him.
Nobody knows how much you respect his game.
I do like Mark Schlereth.
Jaco doesn't know that.
No.
Ben, they don't
They
know.
haven't seen the screenshots.
They don't know.
So I think I kind of agree with him in that I think they screwed Drew Lock. I don't know that it's a big difference, and I think there's logic to it that's beyond, hey, Drew will be upset. Like I genuinely think it's a meme thing to keep fans engaged and keep tickets sold and all those kinds of things. Like isn't this a sneak? You said earlier it's a sneakier tank job for the next quarterback, isn't it? I mean, I don't even know if that's part of it, but I do genuinely think that they're like, if we bench Daniel Jones, everybody checks out. What can keep people engaged for a few weeks? Cutlets. Nobody's engaged with Drew Lock at quarterback. I genuinely think this is not a marketing, but it's like a business thing. Like, we need to keep fans at least interested in the building, because otherwise we lose money.
Half the fans hate him because Drake May throws touchdowns now, and it's Tommy's fault.
People, you're missing the engagement, hate and or love.
Oh,
extreme attachment, emotional reaction to somebody is good.
It doesn't
matter if it's good or bad, just that they're engaged. Nobody cares about Drew Lock.
Schlereth's coming from, he's a Broncos guy, Drew Lock for the Broncos. I'm sure there's a personal relationship there. He's probably upset about that as well.
Maybe. I mean, I think that part is fair. Like, Drew Lock has gotten screwed in this arrangement, and he might also have a point with, I don't know if that's the kind of thing prospective free agents look at and say, this is an organization that doesn't necessarily treat its personnel particularly well. Like, this guy got screwed last year. I don't know if I want to go there on this basis, right? That thinking I've got a shot at winning a starting job, and then suddenly they give it to the third string guy because he's got a funny mustache. Like, I don't know if that might be true as well. So that side of it, I think, is actually a fair point to bring up. But in classic Shouty Show fashion, they've gone overboard, right? Because I think there's an equally defensible side to it, which is it's a business decision.
And Schlereth, as I mentioned earlier, he's one of your heroes because he does these incredible one-off videos about like trips to Home Depot and why he hates analytics, and he does air quotes, and he's got great. Yeah. You send me these screenshots of Schlereth all the time.
What did he used to call them? Man something 101.
Yeah, Man 101.
It wasn't mansplaining. Maybe it was just Man 101.
Yeah, it's like how do you fix a bench, and
right?
What the trip to Home Depot looks like and everything. Stuff, very relatable stuff for men like us.
Right.
But yeah, Schlereth's great.
Don't lump me into this with you. I can fix things.
I fixed a drawer the other day.
You can't fix it.
All by myself. It's mostly good. A little off the hinges, but we're mostly good. Mostly good. Fixing stuff.
Are we out, or do we have one more?
We got one
more.
We have a fourth, yeah.
You guys out there who consider yourselves good sports fans, you decided, well, there's nothing else to watch. It's 10 or 12. Go read a book. I mean, my goodness gracious. And this is what you decide to put on your television set, Steve Torrey? And don't give me the excuse you're at a friend's house and he had it on. Leave! But how in the world could anybody think they were watching a legitimate sports event with a guy who's been washed up for 35 years against some guy who's not a boxer in Jake Paul? that we got to flock to a TV set. I know there's nothing on. I get that. It's 11:45 at night in the East Coast. Find something more productive to do. Where's the missus? I don't know. Do something. I mean, my goodness gracious. Take the dogs for a walk.
I don't understand how he doesn't give himself an aneurysm doing that every day.
Can we get confirmation? What percentage of the show is he at a 10?
Like, even if it's an act, right? Even if the whole thing is staged.
Read a book, quad out of 12.
Your body doesn't know that. Like, your physiological system doesn't know you're faking this. Like, it's busy pumping adrenaline around your system.
Well, I'm sure the blood pressure medicine is sponsoring the show.
Spiking your blood pressure through the roof, like putting stress on your heart valves. Like, how is his heart artery, how is his coronary arteries not just tapped out by now and blown itself to oblivion?
More importantly, do you agree that 110 million people were wrong to tune in to 57-year-old Mike Tyson?
Yes.
58 or whatever he is.
I certainly did not regret my decision the next morning to stop watching that after the Katie Taylor-Serrano fight and was like, I don't need to see Tyson Jake Paul. I don't.
Oh, there's so much intrigue. People have wanted. I mean, I heard people say like, "Oh, this is just a failure of boxing because they haven't created a star since Tyson." And it's like, how? Like, how could you even replicate Tyson? People loved Tyson because they kind of served up second-tier opponents to him, and he knocked them all out. And all of his, I mean, if you're a kid, go check out all the highlight films, the videos of him knocking dudes out in the first round. How do you replicate that? Like, no one else was capable of doing that. And he had an incredible Nintendo game.
Yeah. I also think, like, Tyson, I mean, he's 58. He was talking about how he almost died a couple of months ago. He had a giant brace on his knee and couldn't move.
This was
somebody.
If this happened 5 years ago, it's probably a little different, right? Like, he was in better shape because he just had this near-death experience.
Point being, somebody sanctioned this, like, medically. Like, people cleared this as okay, and there was very little evidence during that fight that should have been something that was allowed. Like, you know, there are things that generally don't get through sanctions for reasons exactly like this. I mean, Tyson was never necessarily in danger, but, like, that's not a fight that should have taken place.
It took a couple minutes. I wasn't really sure where he was going, what he was complaining about for a while.
Yeah.
Until he said, go read a book.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Why are you watching a fight?
This topic is irrelevant for Chris Mad Dog Russo. It's just like, what, like, you know what I mean? It's kind of, the actual subject matter is irrelevant. It's just, what can I get dialed up to 12 about and make it sound like I'm going to have an aneurysm over?
That would be fun. That would be a fun game, right? So ESPN used to have, they did their own version of, I don't know, like they had like tryouts for SportsCenter anchors or whatever. So they would like give you a highlight, right? They did like a whole reality show years ago. We should do that for Shouty Shows. We should give you a topic and say, here, you know, have an aneurysm on this, you know?
Yeah. Well, that was our suggestion.
Your wife bought cornflakes. Go.
That was our suggestion for the charity drive thing, right? We raise money, and then whoever loses,
that we're doing. Yeah, but I thought we were doing that off like real topics, though.
Well, no, we could do, but that's what I'm saying. So we could, whoever loses,
auditions. We should have fans audition for us.
Whoever loses has got to do the Shouty Show segment, but the winner could provide the subject.
Kelly bought Fruit Loops. React. Go.
You had a good. I mean, your Shouty Show segment on IKEA is really that's up there.
I don't know if I could replicate my IKEA rant on the way back from training camp.
Even if you can,
only you and Tyler were privy to.
We don't have time for it now, but maybe in the future. I believe you've hit Shouty Show pitch before ranting about IKEA. I'll just put it that way.
Oh, I do hate IKEA.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.